Welcome to the Big Brian Show.
Welcome to the Big Brian Show.
Nice. Hey, what's happening, YouTubers? Hello. Today's story is about Maggie Lena Walker. Maggie Lena Walker. And I'm doing this story for my children. And the reason I'm doing this story for my children, because my children are part of Maggie Lena Walker's legacy. They're descendants of Maggie Lena Walker. So that's why I'm doing this story today on Maggie Lena Walker. So today's story, I'm gonna have to go back to the beginning, like I always do. I met Suzanne. Her dad called her Suzanne. Rest in peace, John. In the early 80s. Okay? Rest in peace, Sue. That's Sue right there on the Jenny Jones show. She was like Kim Kardashian before Kim Kardashian. We started dating. And when I met her, I remember when I met her, she said something like to the effect. She goes, yeah, my great-grandmother was famous, right? And I was like, yeah. I said, who's your great-grandmother? And she said, my grandmother was Maggie Walker. So when she said that, I was thinking Madam C.J. Walker, right? Because like when I looked it up, and I saw Madam C.J. Walker. So I was thinking it was her for a long time. So I was like, okay, cool. I thought maybe that was her, and didn't think about it no more for years, until one day her mother name is Marion, and we were real close. Anyway, me and Suzanne got married. Okay, that was my wife. And one day we was talking, and I think maybe this could be 10 years now later. And when computers and internet come about, and I said, what was your grandmother's name again, or great grandmother's name again? I think that's when she said Maggie Walker. So when I looked it up, I said, and I used to talk to her grandfather. Her grandfather's name was Armstead. Talked to him many times, and he was a character. Armstead was a character. He was real slick, like from DC, and he was real slick. He said, yeah, old clown, you better take good care of my granddaughter, clown, and I used to laugh at him. We on the same, make sure we're on the same circuits, and I used to talk, I used to laugh at him. Me, and I was young, right? So I used to talk shit back to him. I said, oh man, I'll beat your ass to get him going, right? Oh, clown, don't make me come on. But anyway, that was Armstead. He was a character. Marion is her mom. Armstead is Suzanne's grandfather. Well, anyway, I said to Marion one day, we had a conversation. And I looked it up on the internet, and when I seen who Maggie Walker was, I was like, oh, holy, I said, oh shit. Wait, I said, this lady was the first woman to have a Bank in America, right? And I remember, because I remember when I saw that, I remember talking to Marion, right? I said, Marion, I said, why you ain't, I said, that's your grandmother? And she said, yeah. And I was like, how come you ain't never say nothing? She said, I ain't think about it. you got to know Marion. Marion is something else. She goes, I ain't think nobody give a fuck. She's like that. That's how she talks. Marion is something else. Beautiful woman. But anyway, and I just laughed, right? And I said, Dad, so Maggie Walker is Marion's great-grandmother. Maggie and Armstead Walker had 2 boys, Russell and Melvin. And Melvin is Marion's grandfather. She follows down Melvin's side. So anyway, me and Suzanne and my daughter, I'm gonna put these pictures up. Me, Suzanne's sister Renee. They got some beautiful people in their family. Me, Suzanne, Renee, my daughter Danielle, and Renee's daughter, my niece. Her nickname is Birdie, but her real name is Leanna. We all went to Richmond, Virginia, okay? Because that's where Maggie Walker came from. And when we went to Richmond, Virginia, these are the pictures I'm gonna put on here. We went to Richmond, Virginia, and that's when I really seen how big Maggie Walker was. I was like, holy shit, this lady was huge. Her house is there. It's now a historical site. It's like a mansion. It's got like 32 rooms. The house has an elevator in it. She was like one of the first people to have an elevator in the house. Her bank is still there. They got schools and restaurants named after her. It's amazing. And they rolled the red carpet out. They treated us like royalty for us. And when they found, and we went, and it was funny because we went to the bank, and the first picture in the bank was Maggie Walker. And then you got a bunch of men, like 18 or 19 men who were president after her. And the day we went, it just so happened to be another black woman was the president, which was kind of wild. So I said, man, this thing came full circle. I just looked this lady up. Her name was Kim D. Saunders. She ran a financial consulting firm after leading banks in Richmond, Washington, and Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina, has died. I just looked her up. That's her. Yep. Miss Saunders, 62, succumbed to illness on Saturday, July 29th, 2023, in Durham, North Carolina, where she was living. Miss Saunders was just the second woman, to lead Consolidated Bank and Trust Company in Richmond. The bank was founded by Richmond business leader Maggie L. Walker in 1903. Ms. Walker led the bank until her death nearly 30 years later. That's her right there. She was real nice. The St. Luke's Penny Savings Bank that Maggie Walker founded in 1903 was renamed Consolidated Bank and Trust, and Walker became chairman of the board. The bank continues today and is the oldest continuously operated African-American owned bank in the USA. And they took us into the bank that's still there. And then we had a tour of her house. And she got a high school, junior high. I mean, it's like Maggie Walker is huge. I was like, wow. Restaurants and streets named after her. Like, God, I was like amazed, man. So anyway, that's what this story is about. It's about Maggie Walker, but like I say, I'm doing this for my kids because that's their great grandmother. Okay. And one more thing, it was weird because when we went into her house, because now it's a historical site. It was wild. It was wild looking at the pictures, and the tour guides go, yes, here's a picture of Maggie with her two sons, and that's Armstead. And I'm sitting there looking like, because he was a small boy, but I'm sitting there, that's Armstead, man. I've been talking to this guy. Yeah, because see, I never met Armstead in person. But I would talk to him on the telephone quite a few times because Sue would be talking to him, and she go, Brian, my grandfather want to talk to you. So then I talked to him on the phone, but I never met him in person because I don't know, I just never met him in person. Sue would go stay with him for the weekend sometime, but I never met him in person. So when I saw, and there he was he's like the last generation before they stopped. And that's why I'm doing this video. When they stopped doing the family tree, it stopped with Armstead. Armstead was like the youngest one, and they stopped there. So what I kept doing, I continued it for my kids. Okay, and you have to realize my kids and Renee kids, they kind of like, like, cause I remember when we went there, I was like, damn, look, that's your great grandmother, and to them it was like, I don't know, kind of like one of those big deals to them. It was like more of a big deal for me and the grown ups. The kids kind of like, okay, but so anyway, that's why I continue doing this for them. I think that my son, he's like the oldest one. I told he now gets it, but it's amazing how much respect this lady had. Cause I went there again. I went there again after with a friend of mine, my girlfriend, cause Sue passed away. The mom passed away. Rest in peace, Suzanne. And I told her, I said I gotta take you to Richmond and show you how big their great grandmother was. And we went, and it was amazing. When they found out, I said my kids is related to Maggie Walker. Everybody, oh man, it was almost like I said, not me, but my children. But I mean, yeah. So anyway, that's what this story is about. Maggie Walker. Maggie Lena Walker, born July 15th, 1864, was an American businesswoman and teacher. In 1903, Walker became both the first African-American woman to charter a bank and the first African-American woman to serve as a bank president. Maggie was born July 15th, 1867, as Maggie Lena, who would later be called Maggie Lena to father Eccles Cuthbert, an Irish-born newspaperman, journalist, correspondent for the New York Herald, and Northern abolitionist. Eccles William Max Cuthbert, about 1840 through 1902. Captain Eccles William Max Cuthbert. Eccles was born about 1842. He was the son of William Montgomery Cuthbert and Mary Daly. He passed away on July 13th, 1902. He was born a native of Ireland. In his youth, he came to America and located in South Carolina. He was a member of a military company when the state seceded that became part of the 1st Regiment, South Carolina Volunteers. He fought in the Civil War for the Confederate South. At the close of the war, he entered journalism, was connected with the New York Herald, and became eminent through his letters to that paper. In 1891, he formed a connection with the Richmond Dispatch, which he maintained as its Washington correspondent until his death. Enlisted for the duration of the war on August 17, 1861, at Abbeville, South Carolina. He was mustered into Captain William T. Haskell's company, 1st Regiment South Carolina Volunteers, as a private. This company subsequently became Company H, 1st South Carolina, McCreary's Infantry, Provisional Army of Northern Virginia. So he might have fought in the First and Second Battle of Bull Run. In 1862, absent sick in Richmond Hospital with syphilis on November and December 1862 through July and August of 1863. Judged unfit for duty in field, detailed as a clerk, Medical Examining Board, Chimborazo Hospital, No. 3, Richmond, September and October 1863 through the end of the war. He worked so skillfully and efficiently as to be highly recommended to pay in line with full clerk. Comrade and confrere, Cuthbert was a most genial man, noted for his kindness of heart and unfailing humor. He was unmarried and leaves a brother in California and another brother, Mr. Robert Cuthbert, in Nashville, Confederate veteran. Although he remained in Richmond until 1890, Eccles did not marry Elizabeth because marriage between Negroes and whites would be illegal in Virginia until 1967. Maggie's mother, her name was Elizabeth Draper, was an ex-slave freed before the Civil War by the Van Loo family, and she chose to remain a house servant, cook's assistant, laundress in the mansion of Elizabeth Van Loo, who was an abolitionist and Union spy in the Civil War. As Quakers, the Van Loos did not believe in slavery. Elizabeth Mitchell was born Elizabeth Draper in Powhatan County, Virginia, and was one of at least 4 siblings. Though details about her early life are scarce, Elizabeth was likely born into slavery but had been freed by the time she began working as a servant for Elizabeth Van Loo. Yes, she freed Elizabeth Van Loo, freed her. In Richmond, on July 15, 1864, Elizabeth would give birth to her daughter, Maggie Lena Draper, now called Maggie Lena Walker. The nature of Elizabeth's relationship with her daughter's biological father, Eccles Cuthbert, is unknown. She married a fellow Van Loo servant named William Mitchell soon after Maggie was born. Together, Elizabeth and William had a son in 1870 named Johnny B. Mitchell, affectionately called Johnny. One evening in 1876, William Mitchell did not return home as usual. Maggie and her mother searched the streets frantically, asking neighbors if they seen him. Nobody saw him. 5 days later, in February 1876, tragedy struck when William was found drowned in the James River. Police ruled his death a suicide, though Elizabeth maintained that he was murdered. After Mitchell's death, his family was plunged into poverty. To make ends meet, Elizabeth began a small laundry business while young Maggie helped her mother by delivering clean clothes to their white patrons. On the job, Maggie saw the economic and social disparities between races. This part of Walker's childhood left an impact on her, she said. In 1904, Maggie said,
I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but with a laundry basket practically on my head.
Maggie was among the fortunate blacks, though, because she was able to attend the newly formed Richmond Public Schools. She went to the Lancaster School and graduated from the Richmond Colored Normal School in 1883, where she was trained to be a teacher. After her graduation, she returned to the Lancaster School, where she taught for 3 years. On September 14, 1886, Maggie married Armstead Walker Jr. They had 3 sons. Russell Eccles Tamaj Walker was born in 1890. Armstead Mitchell Walker was born 1893 but died 7 months later. Their youngest son, Melvin DeWitt Walker, was born in 1897. They also adopted a daughter, Polly Anderson. This is how Maggie viewed her marriage.
And since marriage is an equal partnership, I believe that the woman and the man are equal in power and should, by consultation and agreement, mutually decide as to the conduct of the home and the government of the children.
Due to school policy that forbade the employment of married women, Maggie was forced to quit her job as a teacher.
Taught for 3 years, but then she got married. And women could not teach if they were married because it was unladylike. They were supposed to be home with their children and taking care of their husband's needs.
Walker split her time between her family and work for the Independent Order of St. Luke, a membership organization dedicated to the social and financial empowerment of African Americans. In 1899, St. Luke was on the verge of bankruptcy when Walker was elected Grand Secretary. Her vision to save the organization was to create businesses that hired and served the Black community.
She believed that you should support Black businesses. Instead of putting your money where people didn't value you, why not put your money with people who shared your struggle?
In 1903, Walker founded the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank and became the country's first African-American female bank president.
Let us put our monies together and have a bank that will take the nickels and turn them into dollars.
She grew that organization from nothing to over $1 million.
The fact that Maggie started a bank in the early 20th century is quite mind-blowing because married women couldn't even own their own bank accounts until the 70s. For a woman of color today, the median net worth, how much wealth she has, is $200. The median net worth of a white man is upwards of $20,000.
Okay, so Maggie Walker started having great success. Being the first Black woman to open a bank, she was on her way. The Walkers purchased a home in 1904 at 1101 half East Lay Street within the African-American Jackson Ward neighborhood of Richmond. It was enlarged over the years to accommodate their children's families. The house is huge. It's a mansion. It's like 30-some rooms. In 1907, Walker fell on her front steps, damaging nerves and tendons in her knees. She suffered severe pain as a result and spent much of her last decade at home. In 1928, she used a canned wheelchair, adding a hand-operated elevator to her home and modifying a 1928 seat Packard to fit the chair. Yes, this lady had an elevator in her house before most buildings had elevators. Way ahead of her time. On June 20th, 1914, Walker's son Russell Walker, at age 24 or 25, shot and killed his father Armstead. Russell had mistaken Armstead for a burglar for whom both he and his father had been searching. Russell was arrested and charged with murder, and after 5 months awaiting trial, was declared not guilty. The loss left Walker to manage a large household. Her work and investments kept the family comfortably situated, though. Walker loved to entertain, and during this time, Walker still frequently invited black businesses, civic and social leaders to dine at her house. Visitors included W.E.B. Du Bois, Langston Hughes, and Mary McLeod Bethune. Russell never recovered from his father's death, and after 8 years battling depression and alcoholism, died November 23, 1923. After Russell's death, his wife Harriet, or Hattie, and their daughter Maggie Laura Walker moved in with Maggie Walker in Richmond. Hattie became a trusted advisor to Maggie within the Independent Order of St. Luke, quickly moving up the ranks. Maggie Walker died December 15, 1934. The cause of death on her death certificate was diabetes gangrene. What a remarkable woman. And my kid's great-great-great-grandmother. So guys, if you get a chance, I'm going to end this story now. Go to Richmond, check out Maggie Walker's house. It's a historical site. It's a museum, and her house is there, and the bank is still there, and restaurants still there, and the whole town and schools are named after this woman, like Maggie Walker High School, Maggie Walker Junior High School. It's amazing. So anyway, I'm done.